I was just a broke catering assistant who spilled champagne on a billionaire. I thought I'd get fired, but instead he asked me to disappear with him. Now the world thinks I snatched him for his money. But the truth is messier, louder, and nothing like the fairy tale they imagined. Please drop your location in the comments. I love knowing where my viewers are watching from. Let's get into the story. The first time I met Aaron King, I was holding a tray of champagne glasses and trying not to trip over a white marble step. It was the kind of party where everyone wore their money. The women had diamonds on their necks, and the men carried their suits like tailored armor. I had on a plain black uniform and flats that were one size too small. I wasn't supposed to be there, not really. I was just working the event. One of many staff hired last minute by the event company. The invitation-only gala was thrown by some tech conglomerate, celebrating the merger of two Fortune 500 companies. I didn't care who owned what. All I knew was I needed the money. Rent was due in 5 days. My bank account had less than $20. And my younger brother had just called to say the school wouldn't let him sit for his exams unless we cleared the remaining tuition balance. So when my supervisor asked if I could cover for another waitress who'd called in sick, I didn't hesitate. I tied my hair into a neat bun, fastened the stiff black apron around my waist, and did my best to smile. It was almost midnight when I saw him, Aaron King. He wasn't surrounded by security, though I knew he could afford it. He wasn't loud either, just standing near the edge of the room, holding a glass of water of all things, and nodding politely as some executive tried to impress him. He had that face you see in magazine ads. Sharp, elegant, with the kind of jawline that made you wonder if it was carved by hand. But it wasn't just the face, it was the stillness. Like the room didn't touch him. Like none of the clinking glasses, soft jazz, or laughter mattered to him. I didn't know who he was right away. I didn't care, until I accidentally spilled champagne down the front of his tailored suit. It happened too fast. I turned sharply. My tray hit a woman's shoulder, and 3 flutes tilted just enough to lose balance. The liquid splashed straight onto the man behind her. His shirt turned a darker shade where the drink hit. His lapel dripped. The man blinked once and then slowly looked up, straight at me. I'm so sorry, I stammered. My hands trembled as I tried to grab a napkin from my pocket. The woman beside him gasped, her perfectly arched eyebrows rising in horror. Do you even know who he is? I didn't. Not then. I'll pay for the cleaning, I swear. Just please, don't get me fired. The man raised one brow. His voice was calm and quiet. Are you okay? That stopped me. Yes. I'm fine, I said, still fumbling with the napkin. Then we're good. I looked up. His expression was unreadable, but not angry, not mocking, just interested like I was some kind of puzzle. Then someone rushed to his side, apologizing profusely, offering to replace the suit. A manager came over, face pale, ready to drag me off the floor, but he stopped them. She's fine, he said. Accidents happen. They all paused. Nobody argued. Later, I learned his name from another staff member, whose voice shook just saying it. Aaron King? That's Aaron King. The billionaire investor? He owns half the building. I laughed. You're joking. I'm not. Google him. He's been on the cover of Forbes 4 times. That night I went home and did just that. Aaron King. Net worth $4.2 billion. CEO of Orion Holdings. Son of media moguls. Engaged to Elise Harlow, heiress of the Harlow banking dynasty. And I had spilled champagne all over him like a clumsy fool. I thought I would never see him again. 3 days after the event, I was back at the same catering company's headquarters, sorting cutlery and wiping trays. I didn't notice the black SUV parked outside until my name echoed from the reception. Lori? Someone's asking for you. I walked to the front, still in my apron, my hair damp from the afternoon heat. A tall man in a gray suit stood inside the doorway. He looked like the kind of person who didn't sweat, even in Lagos traffic. You're Lori Adeyemi? I nodded, confused. Mr. King would like to speak with you. I blinked. Mr. Who? He smiled like it was a joke. Aaron King. He's waiting outside. I thought it was a scam. Or a prank. I even glanced at my manager, who stared at me like I just confessed to knowing God personally. I followed the man outside. The SUV window rolled down, and there he was. Same face. Same calm eyes. Hi, he said. Hi. Do you have a few minutes? I'm working. I know. I'll pay for the time. I looked around. Everyone was watching. Some were taking photos with their phones. My heart thudded, not with excitement, but with panic. What did he want? I got into the car. He didn't take me to a hotel or a mansion. Just a quiet cafe near Victoria Island. Ordered tea for both of us. I wanted to say thank you, he said, after a long silence. For what? Ruining your suit. He gave a small smile. For reminding me that some people are still real. I didn't know what to say. Everyone I know, he continued, either wants something from me or wants to be seen with me. You didn't even recognize me. You looked me in the eye and panicked. Yes, but not because of who I was. I stayed quiet. I'm getting married in 3 months, he added. To someone I don't love. Now I was really confused. Why are you telling me this? Because I don't want to marry her. And I'm supposed to, what? Help you cancel the wedding? No, he leaned forward. I want you to help me remember who I am. Before the money. Before the companies. Just be around me. Be real. I should have left. I should have said no. But I didn't. I said, okay. The deal wasn't written on paper. But it was clear. Aaron didn't want a relationship. He didn't want drama. He just wanted a space to breathe. Someone to talk to who wouldn't treat him like a wallet. Someone real. I'll pay you for your time, he said plainly. Nothing weird. Nothing inappropriate. Just company. Conversation. Silence, even if that's what we both need. It sounded ridiculous. But I said yes. Not for the money, though I needed it badly. But because I was curious. About him. About the man who could have anything but still looked tired. So we started meeting. Not every day. Sometimes once a week. Sometimes twice. Always in hidden places. A small art gallery in Lekki. A quiet food court in Ikoyi. A beach house at Tarkwa Bay he said belonged to a friend. We talked. About life. About books. About why he hated loud parties and why I hated being broke. He told me about growing up in a house with more staff than family. How he learned early that people smiled with their mouths but not with their eyes. I told him about my mother. About how she raised me and my brother alone, working night shifts at the hospital and selling akara on the weekends. How I'd gone to school on scholarship, graduated top of my class in sociology, and still ended up wiping tables for a living. Aaron listened. That was the strangest part. He didn't interrupt. Didn't pretend to be impressed. He just listened quietly like it mattered to him. Sometimes, he'd drive me home after, and we'd sit in the car, not saying anything. Just listening to the hum of the night. Then one evening, as I opened the door to leave, he said something that made my fingers pause on the handle. Lori, yeah, you remind me of who I used to be. I didn't know what to do with that, so I just nodded and stepped out into the dark. The first time I realized I was falling for him was on a Tuesday. We were at a roadside suya spot. He'd insisted on going somewhere normal, somewhere loud and smoky, with plastic chairs and bad lighting. I laughed when he tried peppered meat and coughed like he'd been poisoned. You said you wanted normal, I teased, handing him a bottle of water. He wiped his eyes. This is a crime. I laughed again, and he stared at me like I was a puzzle he'd never get tired of trying to solve. And then, without thinking, I stared back, and something settled in my chest. Not excitement. Not butterflies. Warmth. Safety. That was the night I knew. I liked him. More than I should. I tried to push it down. Reminded myself of the rules. This wasn't love. This wasn't romance. I was a placeholder in his life. A quiet in the middle of his storm. He was going to marry someone else. Someone perfect. Someone his world approved of. But then why did he keep calling? Why did he keep asking to see me? One night I finally asked. Why me, Aaron? We were sitting by the ocean, toes buried in the cool sand. His jacket was around my shoulders. He looked at me like the question had caught him off guard. I don't know, he said quietly. Maybe because with you I don't have to be anyone else. Few days later, I saw her by accident. The woman he was going to marry. Elise. She was on the cover of Business Monthly, standing beside Aaron in a gold dress that hugged her body like it was made for her alone. Her hair fell in expensive waves. Her eyes looked like they'd never known doubt. I stared at the magazine for longer than I should have. Something inside me tightened. That was his world. Gleaming buildings. Sharp clothes. Smiling photos. The kind of beauty that money didn't just enhance. It protected. I was never meant to be part of it. I went home and stayed in bed the rest of the day. I ignored his messages. I didn't pick his calls. I didn't want to hear his voice, because I knew I'd forget everything I was supposed to remember. I wasn't his friend. I wasn't his girlfriend. I was a break. A temporary detour. He would marry Elise, and I would go back to catering trays and counting coins at the corner shop. The next day, he showed up at my doorstep. "You didn't answer me," he said, leaning against the doorframe, wearing the same tired eyes I'd seen that first night. "I saw the magazine," I said simply. He closed his eyes, nodded slowly. "She's not a bad person," he said. "She just doesn't see me. Not really. And I do." Yes, that broke me a little. But I still said what I had to say. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep pretending I don't feel something. He didn't try to stop me when I shut the door. And that told me everything I didn't want to admit. That he didn't want to leave. That maybe, just maybe, this wasn't one-sided. But he still left. And I didn't call. I went back to work like nothing had happened. Cleaned floors. Stacked glasses. Waited for my body to stop aching every time my phone lit up and it wasn't him. Then one of the girls at the catering company whispered my name like gossip. "Lori, you've seen this, right?" I looked over her shoulder at her phone. A video was trending online, Aaron and Elise's engagement party. Not just trending, everywhere. The clips were perfect. Her dress sparkled. His suit was flawless. Their kiss was slow, elegant, staged just right for the cameras. The guests clapped, champagne glasses raised, smiling like they all knew the ending. And in the middle of it, Aaron laughed. Like nothing was wrong. Like we'd never happened. I turned away before the video finished. I didn't cry that night. Couldn't. I just stared at the ceiling and let the silence settle into my skin like cold. I just stared at the ceiling and let the silence settle into my skin like cold. And then, after 2 weeks of nothing, he came back. It was a Thursday. I was locking up the staff entrance after restocking plates. I turned the corner, and he was standing there, leaning against the wall like he hadn't missed a single day. "You look tired," he said softly. I didn't say anything. I just crossed my arms and waited. "I should have told you," he said. "Told me what? That the engagement party was coming? That you were going to kiss her on live TV?" He exhaled. "I didn't plan any of that. It was for the press. Her family. My board." I shook my head. I was stupid to think I meant anything. "You do," he said quickly. "Lori, you do." "Then what am I, Aaron? What am I to you?" He stepped closer. "The only person I'm real with. The only one I trust." "That's not love," I said. "That's loneliness. And I can't carry that for you." He stood there, stuck between wanting to say more and knowing he couldn't. And then he did something unexpected. He reached for my hand. "I'm breaking it off," he said. I blinked. "What?" "Elise. The wedding. All of it. Aaron. I can't marry someone I don't love. I can't build a life where I feel like a stranger every morning." My throat felt dry. "And what happens after? You think your world will accept someone like me?" "I don't care." But we both knew that wasn't true. Because breaking up with Elise wasn't just about feelings, it was about power. Mergers. Public image. The billions that danced in the spaces between their last names. Still, he tried. Over the next few days, the headlines changed. Rumors. Leaks. Speculations. Trouble in paradise? Elise Harlow and Aaron King seen leaving separately. Then, a week later, wedding indefinitely postponed. The news cycle went wild. And my phone rang at 2 a.m. "I did it," he said. I was half asleep, barely able to form words. "You did what?" I told her. "It's over." I sat up. And she didn't scream. She didn't cry. She said she expected it. A long pause followed. "I think she knew about you." I didn't breathe for a few seconds. "What now?" I asked. "You tell me," he said. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to jump into the deep end and stop thinking. To pretend love was enough. That we could rewrite the ending. But I'd spent too many nights watching promises unravel. "I need time," I said. "I'll wait." He did. For weeks we didn't speak. But I heard things. The press went quiet. Elise flew to Paris. Aaron stayed in Lagos. He resigned from one of his companies, citing personal reasons. A few people online called it a meltdown. But I knew better. He was dismantling the life that had never really belonged to him. And I was still afraid. Afraid to believe that someone like him could stay with someone like me, once the smoke cleared and the world stopped watching. But he never pushed. He waited. Until I was the one who called. And when I did, he didn't ask questions. Just told me where he'd be. The same beach we used to go to. Where the wind was warm and no one asked for autographs. He was sitting on the sand, barefoot, wearing a white shirt rolled up at the sleeves. He looked more like himself than I'd ever seen him. I sat beside him, and for a long time, neither of us spoke. Then I said, "I'm not perfect. I know. I'm not rich." He smiled. "I'm aware. I don't know how to be with someone like you." He turned toward me. "Then we'll learn together." And that was it. Not fireworks. Not music swelling. Just two people sitting on sand, letting silence do the work. But the world wasn't done with us yet. The morning after that quiet moment, I woke up to a storm I didn't see coming. Not thunder. Not rain. Something worse. My phone had over 50 missed calls and more messages than I could scroll through. I checked the first one. From Chioma, a girl I hadn't spoken to since university. "Girl, are you seriously trending?" Then another one. "Lori, you need to see what they're saying. It's not pretty." I opened Twitter and my stomach dropped. Hashtag gold digger. Hashtag Aaron and the help. Hashtag from tray to trophy wife. There it was, pictures of me. Blurry screenshots from the beach, me and Aaron sitting together, leaning in. One photo caught the second he took my hand. Another one showed us walking away barefoot. The captions were brutal. "Billionaire king ditches heiress for unknown waitress." Who is Lori Adeyemi? What we know about the mystery woman stealing Aaron King's heart. From service tray to billionaire bae. How far will some women go? They called me everything. Opportunist. Climber. Cheap. A phase. Some went deeper. Found old photos from Facebook. Screenshotted comments I'd left under my brother's posts. One blog even reached out to a woman I used to work with, twisting her words into a headline. Former colleague warns. She always knew how to get what she wanted. I felt sick. This wasn't supposed to happen. Aaron had protected me so carefully. No photos. No parties. No leaks. But someone somewhere had watched us. Followed. Snapped. And now I was the villain in a love story no one had asked for. I tried to call him. It rang twice and then went to voicemail. My chest tightened. Had he seen it? Was he rethinking everything? Was this the moment everything fell apart? I didn't sleep that night. I didn't eat. I just lay in bed staring at my cracked ceiling, wondering if being loved by someone like him was always going to cost this much. Then, sometime after 11 a.m., I heard a knock. Not the polite kind. The firm, persistent kind. I dragged myself to the door. It was him. Aaron. He wasn't smiling. "Why didn't you call me earlier?" he asked immediately. I did. It went to voicemail. I was in a meeting. My phone was off for 2 hours and the whole internet fell apart. He walked past me and sat on the edge of the couch, running a hand through his hair. I stayed by the door. "You've seen it?" I asked, barely above a whisper. "All of it." I looked at him, bracing for regret in his eyes. But I didn't find any. What I saw was worse. Anger. Not at me but at the world outside. "They went through your life like it was public property," he said, jaw tight. "I should have known this would happen. You couldn't have stopped it. I could have done more to protect you." I sat down slowly. "What now?" He looked at me, finally softening. "Now I make it clear where I stand." I hesitated. "Aaron, they're tearing me apart out there. I know. And tomorrow they'll find someone else to destroy. That's how they work. But I'm not letting them chase you away. People think I'm using you. Then let them think it. They don't get a say in what we build." For a moment, I just stared at him, wondering how he could still be so sure. "I didn't sign up for this part," I said honestly. "I know," he replied, just as honest. "But you're not alone in it." He stayed with me that day, not because I asked him to, but because he wanted to. He cooked rice that came out half-burned, sat cross-legged on the floor as I cried into a pillow. He never once told me to be strong, and that should have been enough. But then came the email. A major news outlet wanted to interview me. Not Aaron. Me. Their subject line read, "We want to hear your side." I laughed bitterly. They didn't care about my side. They wanted drama, clicks, tears, a new headline to run with. But part of me wondered if maybe, just maybe, I should speak. Maybe if people heard me, they'd stop seeing me as a walking scandal. I brought it up with Aaron that night as we sat in his car parked outside my apartment. "I won't stop you," he said. "But be sure, once you start talking, they'll never stop asking." I nodded slowly. "Then maybe I won't say anything. Let them talk." He reached over and took my hand. "You don't owe anyone your story." That night, I drafted a short statement and posted it on my barely used Instagram. "I am not who you say I am. And I am not who you think I am, either. I'm just a woman who didn't plan for any of this. But I'm here now, and I will not be silenced. I didn't look at the comments. I didn't track the likes. But for the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe again. Then Aaron asked me something I didn't expect. It was a quiet night. We'd made jollof rice together while I cooked and he hovered like a curious kid. After dinner, we sat on the rooftop of his apartment, Lagos glowing in the distance. "Lori," he said, watching the city lights, "if I asked you to disappear with me for a while, would you say yes?" I turned toward him. Disappear? Just for a few weeks. No phones. No press. No suits. Just us. I didn't hesitate. "Yes." He smiled. "Good. Because I already booked the tickets." I laughed, stunned. "You what?" "We leave on Friday. I already spoke to your boss. You're on paid leave." "Don't ask me how." "Aaron, it's not a getaway," he said. "It's a reset. I want to remember what this feels like. Without noise. Without questions." And just like that, we were gone. Paris was never part of my dreams. It always seemed like something other people wanted. Rich people. Tourists. Girls who drank wine and read novels in French cafes. I was more familiar with Danfo buses, second-hand textbooks, and dreams that needed receipts. But when we stepped out of Charles de Gaulle Airport, with nothing but small carry-ons and borrowed time, something shifted in me. Aaron didn't take me to the Eiffel Tower or some overpriced hotel suite. Instead, we stayed in a quiet Airbnb in Montmartre, an old apartment with creaky stairs, wide windows, and mismatched furniture. He made sure no one knew we were there. No assistants. No bodyguards. Just us. The mornings were slow. He'd make coffee badly and I'd fix it. We'd walk down the street and buy croissants from a bakery where the woman never smiled, and that somehow made it feel more real. We didn't talk much about what waited back home. Instead, we talked about everything else. Books, childhood, the worst food we'd ever tasted, the last time we'd cried. One evening, we sat by the Seine, our feet hanging over the edge. Aaron leaned his head on my shoulder, quiet, still. "You know what scares me?" he asked. I turned to him. "What?" "That I don't know how to be in love like a regular person." I reached for his hand. "You don't have to be regular, just honest." He smiled a little, like the words settled something in him. And I didn't know peace could be this loud. The sound of Paris traffic below our window. The hum of someone playing jazz in the alley. The kettle whistling while Aaron burned toast for the third day in a row. His soft curses. My laugh that refused to be quiet. It was loud. And yet, peaceful. We weren't pretending. We weren't anyone else. No suits. No cameras. No one expecting us to behave a certain way. I taught him how to wash rice properly. He was appalled at how many times we had to rinse it. He showed me how to use a camera properly. He said I had a photographer's patience, even though I nearly dropped the lens twice. And every night, just before we slept, he'd say my name like it was the last word he wanted on his lips. Lori. Simple. No promises. Just my name. And somehow that was enough. 3 short taps. Firm. Purposeful. Aaron paused, halfway through tying his sneakers. We weren't expecting anyone. The host wasn't due to check on us. We'd kept our location private. Told no one except a trusted assistant who was under strict instructions to stay silent. But someone had talked. Aaron opened the door slowly. 2 men stood there. One was older, dressed in a dark coat, eyes sharp. The other had a phone in his hand, camera already aimed. "Aaron King?" the first one asked. "We just want a few words. We know about the engagement." Aaron didn't let him finish. He shut the door, locked it, and turned to me. "They know where we are," he said flatly. I nodded, heart pounding. The next few hours were a blur. We packed fast, left the apartment without looking back, took a rented car and drove south, toward the countryside, where internet barely worked and no one cared who we were. In the middle of an olive grove near Avignon, we found a tiny stone cottage. No neighbors, no noise, just wind and fields. We stayed there for 3 more days, but something in us had shifted again. The world had found us, and this time it wasn't letting go so easily. We came back to Lagos quietly, through a different airline, no press in sight. But the moment we landed, Aaron's phone buzzed nonstop. Board members, shareholders, friends trying to check in, people acting concerned when what they really wanted was information. I knew it was coming, but I wasn't prepared for how fast it moved. Aaron King spotted in Paris with mystery woman. rumored to be ex-service staff. Inside the scandal, Billionaire walks away from empire, fiancé, and expectations. Public reaction split over King's new partner. Is love enough? I saw the headlines before he did. I tried to shield him even though I was the one taking the heat. But he wouldn't let me. I'm not hiding you, he said. Not anymore. So he made it official. He posted a photo of us. Just our hands, fingers intertwined, on his verified page. The caption was short, "My piece." That was all. But the internet was nothing compared to what came next, introducing him to my family. My mum had always been protective. She knew I'd been hurt before. She didn't trust men with money, or men with too many smiles. I brought Aaron to our house one Sunday. He wore a plain shirt. No expensive watch. He helped carry the rice inside. My brother eyed him like a security guard at a checkpoint. "Mom," I said, "this is Aaron." She nodded, offered him a seat, and said nothing else for 5 full minutes. Just looked at him. Then, finally, "Are you here to play with my daughter's head?" Aaron didn't blink. "No, Ma. I'm here to ask if I can be a part of her life. Fully. Not halfway." Mom looked at him, then looked at me. "Are you sure?" she asked me softly. I nodded. She sighed. "Then you both better be ready, because if it works, it'll be big. And if it fails, it'll be louder." That was my mum's warning, and I carried it with me everywhere we went. By now, the press had started to calm down. A new scandal had pushed ours off the front page. Aaron was still trending here and there, but it wasn't like before. People were moving on like they always do. We started walking outside again. Not far, just evening strolls, hand in hand like normal couples. We bought roasted corn by the roadside, argued about music, and watched little kids chase each other through puddles. Then came that night. It rained the way Lagos rains when the sky forgets to be patient, loud, urgent, everywhere at once. We were at his place, sitting under the balcony roof, drinking warm tea and watching the storm. I had my feet tucked beneath me. He was humming something quietly, and then he stopped. "Lori," he said. He stood up, stepped out into the rain without saying another word. "Aaron." He turned around, soaking wet now, but grinning. "Come here. You're insane." "Yes, but come anyway." I hesitated, then ran to him. The cold water hit me instantly, and we laughed like children, standing there drenched under the open sky. Then he reached into his pocket, still in the rain, and pulled out a small black box. I froze. He opened it, the raindrops hitting the velvet like tiny drums. A simple gold ring sat inside. "No speeches," he said, his voice steady. "No grand promises. Just one question." He looked at me. "Will you marry me?" Everything around us paused. The rain, the wind, even my own breath. It was like the world waited for me to speak. And I didn't. I didn't wait. "Yes," I said, loud enough to be heard over the storm. "Yes, yes," I repeated, laughing through the water. Through the tears I couldn't tell from the rain. He slipped the ring onto my finger. Fit perfectly. Then he pulled me close and kissed me like the world owed us that moment. There were no photographers, no lights, no orchestra in the background. Just the sound of the rain, and our wet clothes sticking to our skin, and the weight of everything we'd been through. That night we didn't sleep much. We lay in bed, whispering nothing important. Just small things, safe things. And I thought to myself, this is what love feels like when it's not afraid. We planned a small wedding. Just family. A few friends. No influencers. No red carpet. But of course someone leaked it. We didn't find out until the morning of the ceremony. News outlets started calling. Helicopters were seen hovering near the venue. Strangers tried to crash the gates. Aaron looked at me with frustration. "We could cancel." I shook my head. "No, not this time. We're doing this." We moved the ceremony up by 2 hours. Tight security. Phones banned at the door. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. My dress wasn't custom-made by some French designer. It was made by a quiet tailor in Surelier who cried when I hugged her. Aaron wore a simple white agbada. No jewelry, no watch. Just a small red coral bead around his wrist that my mum insisted on tying herself. When I walked down the aisle, my knees shook, not from fear, from disbelief that I'd made it here to this moment with this man. We exchanged vows under a mango tree. The wind was calm, the sky clear for once. "I don't need the world to understand this," Aaron said in his vow. I just need you to feel it. And I did. And a year later, I was writing a whole new kind of story. It started with fatigue. The kind you can't blame on work or weather. Then nausea. Then the test. 2 pink lines. I stared at it, sitting on the cold bathroom floor, the world buzzing faintly behind my ears. Aaron was in the living room, reading some article, humming something under his breath. I walked out holding the stick like it was a confession. He looked up. "What's wrong?" he asked, standing. I didn't speak, just handed it to him. He stared at it, then at me, then back at it. And for the first time since I'd known him, I saw tears in his eyes. "You're sure?" I nodded, overwhelmed. He dropped the test, crossed the room in 2 steps, and wrapped me in a hug that said everything words couldn't. We stood like that, breathing each other in. His heart was racing. So was mine. "You okay?" he whispered. "I think so. I'm scared," he admitted, resting his chin on my head. "Me too." And we laughed, trembling in each other's arms. The months that followed were quiet, and slow, and healing. Aaron started turning down work trips. I stopped checking social media. We built a small world for ourselves. Morning walks, prenatal appointments, shared meals with fewer phones and more eye contact. My mom became a permanent presence in the house, her joy so loud it filled every room. She sang to my belly, prayed over me daily, and reminded Aaron at least twice a week to start eating vegetables like a responsible father. We chose not to find out the baby's gender. Aaron wanted the surprise. I wanted the peace. In the 8th month, during one of those peaceful evenings, we sat on the balcony. The sky was soft with clouds, and a gentle breeze moved through the curtains. "I've been thinking," he said, his hand resting on my belly. "Everything we've been through, I wouldn't change any of it." I smiled, placing my hand over his. "Even the bad parts?" "Especially the bad parts," he said, "because they brought me here, to this, to you." Then one morning she arrived. Not with drama, not with rush, just a quiet ache that grew stronger, steadier until I knew. Aaron drove like the roads had feelings. My mum rode with us, calm and firm like she'd done this before. 12 hours later, our daughter was born. We named her Ada. She had my eyes, his dimples, and the kind of cry that made you forget how tired you were. Aaron held her like she was made of air. "She's so small," he whispered. "She's everything," I said, and I meant it. We brought her home 3 days later, wrapped in soft white cotton. Our lives forever changed by something so tiny. Our lives forever changed by something so tiny. That night, after Ada finally slept, Aaron and I sat beside her crib. Neither of us spoke for a while. Then he turned to me. "Promise me something." "What?" "No matter what the world says tomorrow or 10 years from now, don't let them rewrite this. This. Us." I took his hand, still tired, still sore, still overwhelmed. "I promise." And that was it. Not a grand ending. Just life unfolding gently. One real day at a time.